Hey, divine ones, and welcome to today's episode of Embodied Divinity. I had the honor of interviewing Douglas White, who is a former major league pitching coach turned inspired writer and entrepreneur. Today's interview was absolutely incredible as we talked about all things energetics and belief systems. I hope you enjoy. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us for the Embodied Divinity podcast. So excited to have Douglas White with us. You just heard all about him in the intro. Douglas, thank you for being here. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat with you.
Yeah, I'm so excited. So we get to hear a lot from Douglas this morning. It sounds like you've had quite an incredible journey. So tell us, how did you become the man sitting in front of us today?
Oh man, that could be like a 4 hour answer in itself. Let's see if I could do it in a quicker manner. So when I was like in the range of 18 and 19, I I did two things. One is I went to Life Spring Training when I was 18, which taught me that really your ability to give and receive love is the most important thing about life. You can give and receive love, and then your ability to release all your little intricacies of life that every human being has, right? All the, if you have a self-worth issue or insecurity issue, all those things, like, great, no worries, just don't let it be like a cannonball attached to your ankle. Let it be a kite that you can roll with still, you know what I mean? Like, you could still go through life and you're just fine, right? So those couple things. And then I got turned on to Abraham Hicks when I was 19, and that really opened me up to the emotional awareness aspect of how we're living, because we are vibrational beings. And so if you're not tuned into your emotions, you really are missing a huge key of information in your life, your navigation of your life. And so those two things, ever since those days, I've been thinking, reading, listening, writing about those things. And so I went through baseball. As a player, wasn't very good, wasn't able to really like get a rhythm to this. So stepped into the coaching realm, and I took off basically in the way of, I immediately got into a professional organization, which should have never happened with my background. But then I, quote unquote, struggled for like 8 years. And that was the point where I was continuing to get in my own way. My belief systems were not allowing me to grow the way I felt like I wanted to. And so I eventually got a hold of that and got a nice little rhythm there. And then I got to fulfill my dream of getting to the big leagues. And so in a matter of like 4 years after I kind of broke through and understood about my belief systems and emotions and such, I made it to the big leagues. So that was 2018 was my first year in the big leagues. And then 2019, I got my first head pitching coach job. I was the pitching coach for the Los Angeles Angels. And so the only reason really why I share all this is because I was never really supposed to be that guy. If you're talking about stereotypical society, looking at my career on paper, so on and so forth, there's no way I was ever supposed to be in that position. But I got to that position, then I realized, wow, interesting. A lot of things going on here. I don't know if I want to spend all my time in this arena. I really love a lot of things, but I also want to expand and grow as a human being. So I think I'm going to step outside of it. And I did so. And now I'm in that process. I'm in that, what we all call the transitioning process, where I'm growing into who I really want to be, how I really am, so on and so forth. And then here we go. Now I'm sitting here in front of you having conversations like these just because I just enjoy them, basically that's what I do. Yeah.
Well, I love your story. I think it's incredible. So many things that you mentioned. And I'm a firm believer that life is always happening for us, and that every single thing you went through got you to be this person, right? And I mean, amazing that you were introduced to Abraham Hicks at such a young age. And I'm sure that later on, as you were changing your belief systems, that helped a lot too. One thing that I really want to kind of hone in on is you said that your beliefs, you had the awareness that your beliefs were not allowing you to create the reality that you desired to live in. Can we focus? Because I know so many people are there right now, right? What does that even mean? How
Sure.
did you have that awareness and how did you change it?
Yeah. So, I mean, I have more awareness about it now, obviously, after living the experience itself, and then also like my continued practice in that realm, right? But in that, like, so looking back at it at that point in time, that was a lot about understanding, like, okay, you do create your own reality. Yes, you're in relationship with a lot of people around you, but it's like, where's your awareness going? Is your awareness going that they have control of who you are, what you do, and how you want to do it? Or are you in control of that? And I had a lot of looking outside of myself, things going on when my beliefs, my thoughts, my statements were, they're not allowing me to. They'll never see me this way. Or, or my own personal ones, like, am I really good enough as a coach? Do they respect me? Can I create relationships that I want to? So these thoughts and statements were going on. And until I got to a place where, one thing is, I wasn't allowing outside factors to determine the way I was going to think and feel about my career. But then also with myself, was I going to make the decision to believe in who I was, know my greatness, know that I was able to accomplish these things, know that I could create relationships, know that I was a quality coach. Until I got to that point, I wasn't moving in my career. I was super stagnant and very upset. But I was upset because obviously the perspective that I was choosing to look at it at that time.
Well, I mean, a lot of what you mentioned, the imposter syndrome, the victim mentality, it's one thing to be there, but it's a whole nother ballgame to be able to have the awareness that you're there.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're talking about it, a lot of the people that listen to this are entrepreneurs, seekers, hip hop artists, and creatives that are really moving into that next level of their life. And I think there's, and I know you've probably felt this before. For me personally, it was like this feeling inside where I wanted to blame the world, but my soul was like, no, this is you, you can do this. And so there was like this burning urgency, but it's so hard to flip the script. What are some of the things
Yeah.
you did to change your belief system?
Yeah. So I think this is the most interesting part of this right here, like this exact point in time of our conversation, because so many people think that that's what happens, or that there is a clear linear path to it. If every day I wake up and do A, B, and C, I'll get D, E, and F, let's say, right? And yes, there are experiences that you'll have along the way where it will be exactly like that. However, the interesting thing about us is if you really have to buy into, you have a soul, that the non-physical part of you is more than the physical part of you. The reason being is because that relationship between you and you, the physical you and the non-physical you, that's how you're getting your insights, your contemplations, your ideas, your creativity, so on and so forth. And so what it is, it's about like, okay, I make a statement, let's say I set an intention, however you want to, like semantics, right? You could say that however you want to. You could pray, doesn't matter. Let's just say you say, I want to believe in myself more. Like that's your starting point, because you realize I don't feel very good. I continue to think about myself in a way that keeps me not feeling very good, and I want to change that. Okay, cool. So the first statement you make is, I just want to believe in myself. Cool. Universe listens, inner being knows, soul knows, source knows, God knows, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. It all knows. So now it's, okay, how do I not try to completely control the path? How do I not try to completely control the journey? How do I get out of my own way thinking this path has to be created this one way and only this way? And if these things don't happen, I'm doing something wrong. Like, and there's more, and there's more, and there's more, right? Like, but that's the biggest part is you really don't have to do as much as people think. You do have to set the intention. You do want to make those statements for sure. But then it's the whole relationship of when is it time to focus on it and when is it time to let it be? And my answer to that would be you focus on it when you're in a state of being where your mood, your emotions, your places, I feel pretty good right now. I think I could dab into this a little bit. I think I could mess with this a little bit. I can let me look into some beliefs that I'm having right now. Let's see how I can construct them, refocus them, reframe them. But if you go to the subject matter and it doesn't feel very good, that is absolutely not the time to try to figure it out. That's the time you got to let it go. And you might need to go to other subjects, other things, the walk in the park, right? The petting of the dog, kissing your lover, whatever that situation is for you. But that knowing and being able to practice that relationship consistently, in my opinion, that's the key. Because you're either in a state of allowing, letting it in, or you're in a state of like, holding it away or pushing against, however you want to term that.
There's two powerful things you said there that I kind of want to highlight, and one of them I want to dive into more. First, I want everybody to remember what he said, because so many people in the spiritual world get really honestly kind of fucked up by this notion that you have to wake up and write your gratitude and read whatever inspirational thing and do your meditation in order to get where you want to go. And none of that is true. The only thing that is true is having that intention and conscious connection with your source.
Yes.
The other thing I want to highlight, and this is where I really want to dive into, is where you're talking about energetics. I have a rule. This place I'm sitting in is my home office. I will not sit here if I am not in a high vibrational state. It doesn't matter how long my to-do list is. Yesterday, I had so much to do, but I was kind of cranky. And I walked in my office 3 times and I sat down and I said, no, I don't feel it. I went on a walk. I played with my puppies, and that's those two things. And I want you to kind of hone in, because if you were sitting there blaming maybe the players, they're not receiving my coaching well.
Yes.
They don't see me the way I see myself. And you were to go and try to coach, it wouldn't have worked. So I just want to talk a little bit more about why this is so important.
So I think I'll answer your question through what you said to start this off, where you said you went into your place of work, your place of being, but you want to be in a high vibrational place when you step into this place of work, right? Okay, because that's where your creativity is going to flow through. Okay. But what you did was you showed up, you felt it. Nope, not time yet. You walked away. You showed up, you felt it. Nope, not yet. You walked away. Okay. That's one amazing, let's just say, discipline that you have created for yourself. So good for you, right? And so everyone listening should listen to that first. Okay. Now the second part of that is, but what do I do when I have to get it done? Because there's a timeline to it, or I work a 9 to 5. I have to show up to the job. I can't just not. Okay, cool. That's where the real answer is. And so my deal with that is you always, from your place of being, wherever you are, you can always find something to release some resistance. So if you arrive at your place of work and you don't want to walk inside, sit in your car for a second, breathe for just a little bit, think about the reasons why you actually are at the job. And it could be, I receive money from this job, which allows me to live in the place I'm currently living. It allows me to drive this car that I'm currently driving. I know there's some people in there that I do enjoy being around. I know that eventually today I'm going to create a nice little conversation with a coworker. I know that I can create my own value within my workplace, or well, whatever it is, or however it goes. But the point is being deliberate enough about your life that you spend those 30, I'm more talking like 30 seconds, 60 seconds, a minute and a half. We're not talking about sit there and journal for 20 minutes to figure out your lifeline, right? It's just, all right, the first things first is I'm aware I don't feel as good as I want to right now. And I don't want to bring this energy into my place of work. So let me do something for myself in this moment so I can just release enough resistance to get some momentum headed in a better feeling direction. Now, if you don't want to focus on your place of work, don't. Focus on your cat, focus on the dog, focus on the surf session you're going to have when you're out of work, focus on your kids you're going to see when you're out of work, whatever it is. But don't make an excuse and a justification to yourself that you can't do that you can't find those couple statements to allow you to relax and let your shoulders come down, let your neck relax, and just allow yourself to breathe. That is really where the effort comes in.
Yeah.
You have to do that. You don't have a choice unless you want it to just continue to grow and compound. So I know I kind of got off a little bit, but is that enough of an answer for where?
I think that's perfect. And life is a series of conscious choices we make. And so I think it's really big. And there does come a time, I feel, right, when you get to say, I don't necessarily have to choose this. You did it. When I walked away from my career as a principal, everyone thought I was crazy, but it was no longer in alignment. You transitioned. You had this really amazing career that you wanted, that you worked for. And you transitioned, and now you write poetry, you speak about things like this, you inspire others. That can't be easy, but there came a time when you no longer tried to convince yourself, right, to show up for things that were out of alignment. I know there's always a time and a place where that would be most beneficial, because we don't want to get into survival mode. We don't want to get into lack or poverty if we can help it. But there comes a time when your soul is ready to take that leap of faith. What would you say to those people who are right on the precipice today?
Man, that's interesting. That's a tough one. I think that sometimes we get confused by the emotions we're feeling when we're making decisions. And I know, like, it would be the easiest thing in the world if you just think about something, right? And you're like, oh, that sounds really good. And you make a decision to do it. And then you just, all these goosebumps and butterflies and dolphins. And you're like, oh my God, okay, I know for sure this is what I'm going to do. Right. But sometimes we're contradicting ourselves in that very moment.
Right.
Because we know inside that is the direction we want to head in. But we are scared of the unknown and or the past experiences that we're now bringing into our now moment. So what I would just say for those people is just take a deep breath again, center yourself, and ask yourself, am I bringing past experiences to my now, or am I really in my now making a decision from my now?
Yeah.
Inner being. Do I want to go left or do I want to go right? Which way are you nudging me right now? You know what I mean? Like, just sit there for a second and ask yourself some questions. Not, am I going to make as much money as I think I'm going to? No. Am I going to have the house and the girlfriend and the wife? No. Those aren't the questions. Like, your inner being is not a fortune teller in that way. It's not a psychic in that way, right? It's like a feeling place. Does this feel better than this?
Yeah.
Does this feel more enjoyable than this? Can I do this? Can I not do that? You make those obvious statements and then you're like, oh man, this is easy. Okay, I'm going. Let's do this. Because you wouldn't be at that point in time at that precipice if you really didn't want to be doing it.
Right.
You're just allowing some of those contradictory beliefs to still run you. And it's okay. Be aware of them, but then settle them. Like, understand the trueness about the statement and the falseness about the statement, and then move forward.
I love that. And I love that you're talking about how expansive and good it feels, because I think a lot of times people get into that place where they're trying to make that decision, right? And they have this really exciting feeling, like you said, they know it feels expansive, it feels good, and they start to move forward, and then the anxiety kicks in. And it's so important to discern, like you said, that this is coming from your past way of being, and there's going to be that place. We've talked on this podcast about the void, the transition phase. It doesn't all feel good, but when you tap into your vision, how does it feel, and can you let go of the outcomes? For me, when I went into this, I wasn't thinking, am I gonna make enough money to support my kids? I was
Mm,
thinking, am I going to feel good enough to be present with them?
mm,
Am I going to feel expansive to feel like
mm.
I get to be alive on this earth and be excited about it? Right.
Yeah,
And so it's about letting the feeling dictate your outcome rather than all the things you could obtain, because what we could obtain is us going back to that ego and that physical reality, when, like you
sure.
said, our consciousness is way bigger than
Yeah.
our physical body. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. It's like there are some things about this life while you're leading it that you really want to buy into. There's some things you want to jump into. And so you'd ask yourself, like whoever's listening here, do you really trust in the universe? Do you trust the way our human beingness is being in relation to the universe and our soul? Like, do you really get that? And can you really jump in? Like, do you believe that the universe is a ball of love? And the natural consequence to your alignment, to your feeling as good as you can, as often as you can, is that amazingness will come your way. The things you're wanting to experience in life will come your way. But if you start getting into the physicality of it, how it needs to go, and you start braining it, you start minding it instead of feeling it, right? Instead of, enjoying it and so on and so forth, it's going to be a bumpier ride. It's going to be a tougher thing to decipher. And so, like, for me, especially, like, control freaking is a thing, right? Like a lot of people want to control everything around them, right? Like, and that is a real thing, okay? And also, that's really not how life works in a universal perspective way.
Mm-hmm.
We've turned that into it as human beings. We've turned that into a way. That is a way. Um, but I don't think it's the most expansive, enjoyable, satisfying way. And
Yeah.
in the end, it really doesn't matter. It's up to you.
I totally agree. And as you were talking, I felt a nudge to kind of bring this up, because I can see, especially in the state of the world right now. And I
Mhm.
know there's a lot of different anxieties in the holiday season with the way of our economy, with the
Mhm.
atrocities going on in the world. I can
Mhm.
feel that kind of eye roll in some people being like, well, you don't understand and
Mhm.
you aren't living in my shoes. And I've been there. When I remember when people would try to tell me to feel a certain way, and I was like, you don't understand anything about my life. And I'm
Mhm.
sure that you were there too. And there were days when it didn't feel like you could get to that better feeling state. So, can we give them some tangible things they can do every day to just shift their vibration a little bit?
Yeah. Well, the first thing first is I would say you're right. I don't know how you feel. There's not one person on this planet that can feel what you feel. We could think we're matching it. We can be empathetic if we want to. We can be, whatever you want to match the vibration you're currently holding, but we'll never truly know. So the one thing for certain I want everybody to hear here is you know what's best for you. You know what's best for you. I would just ask you is how long have you been listening? How long have you been listening to yourself, to your soul, and that relationship? And if you haven't been, cool, no worries. Let's start today. Because anything that you've lived previously does not have to affect you moving forward. Now, there's a lot of people who might think differently and believe differently than that. And I respect and understand all those perspectives. Doesn't mean I have to agree with that. And I really, at the core of my being, if you're a person, no matter the struggles you've had, no matter the struggles you've had, you can in this moment start listening to yourself, start experiencing the relationship with yourself, have a conversation with yourself, and you can start moving forward. And I mean, I don't know why this is coming right now, because this is not something I've said consistently throughout these conversations, but for whatever reason, I keep coming back to just come back to your breath. And I know many people go, "Oh yeah, that's great, absolutely, breath is king." Blah blah blah. But I'm not. I do, I do breath work from time to time. It's not a consistent thing for me in my life, but I absolutely do it. Seen the benefit, know the benefit, love the benefits, right? But for whatever reason, right now, I feel called to continue to say to whoever's listening, first things first, you got to stop the chatter in your mind. And so if you could just take those couple deep breaths and feel your body, try to feel your different body parts, try to feel yourself calming down, try to feel your shoulders releasing, relaxing, these types of things. That would be the first place I'd start. And then I'd go right into, okay, soul, if you're here, if you're with me, what do you got? I'm tuning in. I want to experience us more. I want to start a relationship with you more. What do we got? And then just go about your day. Don't like, oh, well, what? Like, was that it? Did you just give me a sign to do? Just chill out. It'll come. But you just got to start like really softly. I want to listen. I want to hear. I want to listen. I want to hear. I want to talk. What do you got?
That's really, really powerful. And we say on here all the time, the more in alignment with your breath you are, the more in alignment with the universe you are. And I think it's a powerful shift you can make of just returning to that stillness, listening, like you said, to source, opening the line of communication with that intention. And I'm all about adding a little bit of delusion in there, letting yourself imagine the dream life you want to live and let yourself
Yeah.
feel it.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, Douglas,
Yeah.
it's quite the leap to go from, and I know you sharing your background, I think helped a lot, knowing you were into Abraham Hicks and that higher level of reality. But how do you make the shift? I mean, I was reading through some of your poems. Douglas just released a book of poetry, and it's absolutely incredible. He's co-authored this book, or not co-authored, but co-created this book with a different artist. It's absolutely beautiful. You can check it out under this with the links under this episode. But how do you go from pitching coach to
Yeah.
poet?
So it's super interesting. Like, I don't call myself a poet, although I have written poetry on and off throughout my life, ever since I was young, like in my teenage years, let's say, right? But so, I don't know how it came down. All I know is I was on Facebook. I reached out to this one lady. Her name was Lindsay Cooper, and she did art. And we're in the same circle as far as like universal law and understanding the way things work out, and so on and so forth. So we just started chatting a little bit. And it's COVID time, and I'm not doing anything at that time. I'm living off of the contract that I signed with the Angels at that time, because I still had 2 years left on the contract. And I just wanted to like be good to me and figure out, okay, Dougie, what's next for you? And a lot of wanting to write came out. So I wrote on medium.com, that there's a write site. So I wrote on there. I wrote on Instagram for a little bit. I did some other things. And with that, I got a hold of Lindsay. She would start sending me art. And for whatever reason, she's like, hey, if you're feeling inspired to write. And so what happened was, like, literally, she would send me an art piece. If I was inspired, I would just look at it in the moment. And if I was inspired, immediately, I would just try to get out of the way and write through my soul's intentions, and I'd write the poem and be done with it. And if she sent me a piece of art and it didn't feel good, I'd just say, nah, give me another. I don't know about this one. Or maybe I'd look at it, a couple weeks later, and I was like, okay, I am inspired now. Let's go. But I would only do the work, the project, the writing, whatever you want to call it, when I felt complete inspiration, and then just let the words flow.
Wow.
And so it was just a practice of inspired writing and recognizing the moment of inspiration. I think that's something that a lot of people listening, you absolutely can practice that. I have a client who I work with, and I tell him, hey, have a book next to, like, a little notebook, your phone, your notes page on your phone, whatever, because he's trying to get into that place of, when am I inspired? When am I getting that hit from my higher self? And I said, well, why don't we just start to ask to be more aware of it? And so when you feel a hit, don't question it, write it down. Whatever the thought was, whatever the paragraph was, whatever the story was, you know what I mean? And so I think that that's basically what I was doing there. And it took I don't know, it was a process of like 2 years. And then we just decided, well, what do you want to do with all these? Because we had 30 of them. And we said, oh, let's self-publish it. And so then we went down that process of self-publishing, and now I have a art poetry book. So there you go.
I think it's so incredible. And I want to point out one thing you said for everyone listening. If you miss this, his creation all started because he had one thought: I want to be good to me.
Mm.
And it was from that place. And I'm sure you did all the things you talked about. You found that stillness. You asked for that connection. You moved from inspiration, that you created something that's beautiful and transformative and so healing for others. That's
Yeah.
really powerful.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you joined us today. I would love for you to just tell the listeners how they can connect with you, work with you, the different platforms that you're on, everything they need.
So I really haven't, like, I don't sell myself on social media, and I haven't done much like branding or anything like that, because I'm in this process of understanding, okay, how do I want to show up in this world
Yeah.
in that regard? And so I'm getting super close to that. I'm working on a current project. And I, again, like, I do have clients. I work with athletes. I work with business execs, general public. It doesn't matter, but I mean, on Instagram, I think Douglas Bryant White is my tag on Instagram. You can go on LinkedIn, just look up again, Douglas Bryant White. Man, where else am I? The website for the book would be awesome. The
Yeah.
poetry book. I would just like to sell the first 150, or I think there's like, we created like 150 to 250 copies or whatever. Like, I just want to have all those in somebody's hand, and hope that while they're reading them from day to day, from time to time, like, it's serving them in a just a nice, peaceful, uplifting way. I think that would be super cool. Yeah, but
Awesome.
the website, like I said, the website's gonna be
Yeah.
on your list here. Yeah.
So you guys can check out all the links. Definitely check out his book. You'll have the link. It'll be the first link you see underneath this episode. Follow him on the social medias. And thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing your gift with us today. Is there anything that you want to end with? Just a message for all of the listeners before we wrap up?
Yeah, I would say one thing, as far as like, life is actually an amazing thing, whether you're in a moment right now where it doesn't feel that way or not. Everybody is living the human experience, which means they're all going through an array of emotions. Some of us just have been, like, pretty good at consistently practicing certain ones, or just being lighthearted about their approach to life. And don't compare yourself to anybody else's journey, because that is only going to keep you in that feeling place where it causes terror inside of you. So again, just do the best you can to be where you are and be who you are. And I guarantee you have emotional guidance, you have an inner being, you have a soul, those types of things. Just do the best you can to try to get in connection with it every day. And I guarantee things will shift for you sooner than later. Just don't take score. Don't take score. Just chill out, be with it.
That is powerful. Thank you so much. And everybody listening, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, breathe deep and plan on miracles. We'll see you next time.